Welcome to Season 2 with the Market Mystics, where we discuss and redefine markets, wealth, and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Join us on the journey while we consider new possibilities with special guests who might just challenge a few perspectives. Get ready to dive in deep with your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Welcome back, everybody. Josh, how's it going? You're glowing today.
Thank you. I have been on vacation with my family, and yesterday we spent some time out on the lake and really enjoying the sun and the water. I mean, it was like one of the smoothest, calmest days. It was, I don't even know what day of the week anymore it is. It was a Wednesday, and that was, I mean, it was like, yeah, there wasn't a bunch of people out there. I think we saw 4 or 5 other boats the whole time we were out. And so swimming, tubing, just enjoying being on the water was a really good time. And I got some sun. So,
That's nice. I, on the other hand, stayed inside all day yesterday because it was like 105 degrees outside and I had no boat and I had no water.
Yeah, there was a few times we jumped in the lake just to be in the water because the feels like temperature was 108, which is, and it's kind of oppressive.
Yeah,
And we're by all this water, so the humidity is pretty high. Like, you step outside and you can feel the weight on your body.
it's crazy. Do you feel like you're breathing it in? I always feel like when the humidity is high, it's like the air is so thick I can taste it or something. It's like you
Yeah.
can almost take a bite of it.
I tell people, it's like a cheesy phrase that I use when it's humid outside. I'm like, you have to chew the air before you swallow it because it's so thick.
I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but I mean, if you know that humidity, you kind of know that's true.
Right. You kind of know the feeling, but it is a little cheesy. So.
That's funny. Okay, look at us being really cool and talking about the weather.
Well, Monday, we got to have a really fun guest who joined us. I hope everyone's had the chance to check out the interview with Trusika. I personally was really looking forward to doing that interview. Um, I know we talked about it on the show, but I just kind of am so thankful and honored that he took time out of his day. I mean, he met with Kim and I before we recorded. He stayed on with us after we recorded and answered any questions we had, helped us figure out some details of some stuff. Like, just genuinely a kind-hearted, loving person. And
sure.
he's had such a wild journey in his life, and I just really honor where he's at with his journey and the person who that journey has made him be. Like, just genuinely a good person, and he's very good at articulating what he's trying to say because he has to defend it every single day.
So true. I really appreciated him being on, but I also really appreciate just meeting people and hearing where they are in their journeys. And I have to tell you, that guy, he has some haters out there. And so for him to be doing this for year after year after year and still like being open and vulnerable and talking about his journey, even the really, really crazy parts of his journey, like, I have to commend him in a big way because I'll tell you at this point, we don't really have haters, but it might be a lot more difficult to get out there and like say the wacky things.
Sure.
If we did, don't you think?
Well, yes, because you're just every day you're going up against resistance. And we've had a handful of people make comments to us, but it's like, yeah, we haven't seen the level of resistance that he's received, or Nancy Cohen's received, or any of those other people. I just saw a post on Facebook yesterday, I think, where Justin Paul Abraham was talking about he received this really nasty message about the way he preaches the gospel, because he preaches that God's happy. And this person wasn't excited that the gospel was good news. And it was like, that's literally what the word gospel means. And so I mean, yeah, like we receive a handful of comments, but let's be honest, our platform's a little bit smaller than some of them, and so we don't quite get the massive public outlash, and that's okay with me because I just I love the community that we have here, and the opportunity that we have to discuss whatever we want to discuss.
For real. For real. Well, anyway, I really enjoyed our conversation. I think he's a super nice guy. So has so many similarities to, I don't know, what we've been walking through, and a lot of deeper insight too. Like I was telling Josh the other day, I was like, he would be a really great person to talk to about some of the things that we can't talk about on air.
That's true. Yeah, and during that conversation, one of the things I mentioned to Kim was like, some of the things he talks about, especially in his book, are maybe things that Kim and I have had glimpses of, or, you know, maybe an experience, maybe just some understanding of it. But he's someone who took that little glimpse or experience that he had and really dug into, well, what does this mean? Where has it happened in history? Um, is it in the Bible, just using different terminology for it? Um, and he's really done a lot of research, and he has a lot of wisdom and understanding in those areas. And like, that's so commendable because he wanted to be able to defend these things. And I think that that's like, that isn't something that we've had necessarily to handle the same way.
It's true. I don't even know. I don't know if it's even our role to handle it that way, but I appreciate what he's doing. Like a couple weeks ago, we did an episode about like past, present, and future. I don't even know what we called it. Maybe it was that.
I think that is what we called it. Yeah.
I don't know, but we talked about historians. So people who like really thrive in knowing the past and really thrive in knowing like the present, and those who really thrive in knowing the future. And like the way that he approaches these concepts, like here's this new thing that's coming up, and then he goes and digs into was it in scripture? How is it played out through history? That's like, I think, oh man, he's a historian, and I need somebody like that, because I am so forward thinking, like, how does this apply as we keep going? And it is almost like it's people like him or those historians who are building foundations so that things can continue to move forward. And I was just, that kind of stuff, I don't know, I get real grateful for it, like if I really think about it, because they are fulfilling a role that I am just like, I am not strong in that. I have no interest in it. It does not bring me life, but I know it's necessary.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to have those people in your community, just because I think everyone has witnessed history does repeat itself. And my personal belief is that it repeats itself so that we can level up when we experience it. But if we don't know that it happened, then we can't do that. And that's a big thing. So it's so needed to have those people in your communities, in your circles, who can be like, hey guys, we've been here before.
Right.
Like, let's
Let's
handle
not.
it slightly differently.
Yes. Yes. Well, and then even that, I would imagine that there's good balance with those who maybe don't look that way, like you and I are. And not that we ignore it. That's not what I'm saying, but it's not our strength. But who tend to look forward, like, where are we going? Let's clear the path. right? And it's like, I just find it to be such a good balance. And I think this is part of the reason we're on this journey the last year and a half, has it been, of seeking other people's perspectives, even if and when they are so, so, so different than our own, because we've kind of come to this place where we know we can't be everything. And we're not going to be everything, but there are people who are supposed to fill those gaps that we just can't fill ourselves. And the appreciation for that has skyrocketed. Like the last year and a half has been so trajectory changing for me. That's probably not a good grammatical phrase, but it really has, because I've really stopped looking at like, oh, here's who I am, and let me see how this moves forward, into like, here's the whole, and how can we all work together so that the whole thing advances,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. And, we've talked about this a little bit, but in my life, I'll just speak to myself, not globally, but in my life, I've had a tendency to look at those people and say, well, they're stuck in the past. They're not. And I would like to say now I've shifted. I'm not specifically talking about True Seeker or any of those people in general. I'm broadly speaking at this point, but like to look at people and say, well, they're stuck in the past, or they're they're different than I am. They function differently. They think differently, and to really take like a hierarchical view of that and say one is better than the other, or a very opposing view of that. And this is something Kim and I have talked a little bit about, but I'm sort of in the spot now where I'm really, really comfortable and becoming more comfortable with um, the polarity in views, because it brings a balance to the way that we function. And so, like, having people who are like loving looking in the history of why this happened, what it means, and having people who are really looking into the future of where we're going, that brings a really beautiful balance to a viewpoint. And I think it's important to have that. And so that balance is key, I think, in moving forward well.
Mm-hmm.
You need both of them.
It's true. And I would even argue, we were just talking about this a little bit, that there needs to be balance. I had a friend on social media who posted something about like, you have to choose sides, or what side are you choosing, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, in my mind, and this is probably not their intent, it is like, which way are you tipping the scales? However, I've been in such a place with like what you're talking about, these polarities and them both being important. I've been in this place of really needing balance with that. Like, where are we in the center of things where
Mm-hmm.
both can exist and both can be valid and both can be of equal import, like without having it have to be completely weighed down on one side and swinging up in the atmosphere on the other side, I suppose.
I mean, I think even no matter what viewpoint you take politically, that if you just strip all politics down to the way it was founded with a two-party system, it's because there becomes balance in that. If it is created with just a one-party system, then it gets unbalanced and it much more quickly heads into a like dictatorship or like um, royal family type situation, rather than having this balanced view where you can be one way or you can be have a different view and it still work for the betterment of all people. Now you can argue whether or not that has been successful in our nation. I'm not here to argue about politics, but just at the root of it, I think it was created with the intention of having that, um, to be able to bring balance to a situation
Mhm.
rather than easily allowing, things to be out of balance and super outweighted for one side or the other.
I have to agree. I am going to talk about politics for a second. I think just as you're saying this, I think what we've been running into and why things have been so heated lately and like, I mean, we've been using the word polarized, like it has been so polarizing with politics, at least in the US lately, but it is almost as though it has gone from being this balance of power, like the intention of being balanced, kind of like, the checks and balances system that we all learned about in grade school with the judiciary and the
Mhm.
legislative and the executive branches, and they're all supposed to balance each other out. No one is supposed to be higher than the other. I think that we've moved away from that needing to be balanced with everyone thinking that they need to be the weightiest one. Like,
Mm.
we need to win. This is about having more power as opposed to having that balance. And I think that's where things are getting so out of whack. And I'm not even saying I'm on one side or the other, because at this point, I don't even freaking know. And it's not that I don't have opinions. It's just that I don't actually know what each side stands for anymore, because
Mhm.
everything has gotten so muddied that I don't want to claim one or the other and then have assumptions made about everything that I know or believe. It's the craziest thing. Anyway, I just think that things have, like, there's such a fight for who is strongest or who is most valid, who is right, as opposed to this fight for having the balance, having that representation, having that, um, I don't know, that way of making good and right decisions for all, I suppose. There's my political rant. How's that?
That's probably about as political as we'll ever get.
That's
Um,
probably true.
and it's not even that political. So I think, no, I really think that the balance is important and being able to accept that someone else has a different viewpoint and potentially their viewpoint is more correct than mine. Like that's an
Mm,
important thing to be able to humble yourself and take that stance.
for sure. For sure. I would even argue that this is something that's been happening in the church too. Um, there are all of these denominations. This is one of these like hot topics for me and always has been. Um, I think it's part of that song the Lord has given me to sing, you know what I mean? But all of these different denominations, all these different sects, all of these different Protestant, Catholic, whatever, Orthodox, all the things, like, we're constantly putting up these walls to divide because you are this and I am this and you are wrong and I am right. And I mean, it's not just politics, it's not just the church, but these are two really big arenas in which this plays out. And it is a sad thing because you just wind up fighting amongst yourselves when you could really be making progress forward. I mean, you were just talking about Justin. I say his name like I know him. Justin Paul Abraham.
Uh-huh.
And like having someone scrutinize him because he's preaching or teaching that God is happy. And one of the examples I like to bring up is Joel Osteen. People love to hate that guy, man, like in Christian communities. And I don't even understand why. Like, his whole platform is joy and love. And I say, if that's the song he's been given to sing, then let him sing it. Like, it's important to have those things when the Father has equipped other people to talk about other things. But without the love and joy, these harder things may not be so easy to swallow. And there's this balance that's needed. And
Mhm.
yet we want to come against others who don't have exactly the same viewpoint or don't sit on the same side of the center that we do, when in reality, we need to be really appreciating that, because it does bring balance, and both are important and both are valid and both are a piece of the whole. And
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm going lately, Josh. Like, I just want to know, like, how do we get closer to pointing people to the whole? And
Mhm.
I think a big key in that right now, at least in my own mind, in my own walk, is getting to a place where you can get some balance in those polarity pieces.
Yeah.
Those things that seem opposite, the things that seem like they're contradicting one another, but they're not. They're both actually right.
I think even in your thought with the denominations in the church, like I'm totally okay with there being a lot of denominations as long as it isn't an us and them and a I'm right, they're wrong.
Yes.
Because the Catholics have a piece of the puzzle that the Baptists don't see.
Hmm.
And the
Yep.
Baptists have a piece of the puzzle that the Catholics don't see. And throughout all of them.
Mhm.
And if you just looked at it as parts of the whole who are specializing in the part that they are drawn to seek out, then that's amazing. But when it becomes
Mhm.
this, I'm right, they're wrong, then I think that's really detrimental. And that's where we've lived a lot of our life. But I don't think it has to be that way. And I think pretty quickly it could shift. Like, I don't think it
Mm.
has to be this long drawn out process. Like, I think it could be a generation or two that totally changes the way that the church borders function. And instead of it being borders to keep people in and keep people out, that it's just different areas of a same body or a same city that specialize in different things. We need doctors, we need lawyers. We don't need everyone to be doctors. We don't need everyone to be lawyers. We need construction workers. We need restaurant employees. Like, we need all the pieces. It's not about making everybody look like you.
Exactly. I completely agree. So it is like with the denominations, I think you're exactly right. The thing that bugs me is the walls. Like,
Mhm.
it is like shutting off all of the others because you are the only one who could be right. But it is like, if you could just take down the walls and see how you do overlap, then all of a sudden you have these ligaments and tendons that's holding the whole body together. And then the elbow can actually bend because the lower arm and the upper arm can work together. And you can see the
Yeah,
overlap and see how you can work together. You know what I don't know. I think it's all good.
I
This
think that's
conversation went somewhere I was not expecting, but that's fine.
that's okay. I think in general, we're just calling out for there to be balance and for you to recognize, you, the listeners, to recognize w- we may have a different opinion than you have. The next YouTube or Facebook or podcast you listen to may have a different opinion than we have, but can you find truth in both of them and allow them both to exist and create balance in your viewpoint? That's my call to action for you guys.
I love that. And allow both to exist.
Mhm.
Love it. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We'll see you again next time.
See ya. Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Visit upperroomcd.com, where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.